I jolted awake to the sound of my land screaming. It wasn't some poetic exaggeration. It was the raw, brutal truth unfolding just beyond my window. The low growl of engines, the harsh snap of stalks crushed under massive tires, and the far-off hoots and laughter of people who clearly didn't give a damn about honest work drilled into my head. I shot up, heart racing, yanked on my boots, flung the door open, and sprinted outside. My mind lagged behind, refusing to process what my eyes couldn't deny. A swarm of ATVs, at least a dozen, ripped through my wheat field like feral beasts let loose in a china shop. Dust and golden stalks sprayed into the air as engines snarled and tires carved deep gouges into the soil I'd spent months nurturing. The destruction was instant. Rows of wheat flattened, roots torn out, my once perfect field reduced to a mangled wreck. Leading the reckless pack was none other than Melissa, the self-appointed dictator of the HOA. Her dark ponytail bounced wildly under her helmet as she whipped her ATV in chaotic loops, grinning like she'd just hit the jackpot. My fists balled up, my jaw clenched so hard I thought my teeth might shatter. Melissa, of course, it had to be her. She'd been a relentless pain in my ass since I'd settled here, always trying to shove absurd HOA rules down my throat, even though my land wasn't under her control. Now she'd escalated things to a whole new level. I sucked in a deep breath and stormed forward, flailing my arms like a madman to get their attention. Hey, what the hell are you doing? Their answer? More laughter, louder engines, and another wave of shredded wheat. My stomach churned as Melissa locked eyes with me, smirking as she pulled her ATV right up to where I stood. She tugged off her helmet, tossing her hair like she was auditioning for a hair commercial, and let out a dramatic sigh. "Oh, chill out, farm guy," she said, flicking a dismissive hand. "It's just a field." My vision blurred with fury. Just a field? The months of grueling labor, the endless hours of watering, the careful planning, all dismissed as just a field. I forced myself to breathe, holding back the explosion brewing inside me. "This isn't some public playground, Melissa," I snapped. "This is my land, my crops, and you and your little posse are ruining it." Her husband, Tom, equally unbearable, rolled up beside her, his belly straining against a too small polo shirt. He snorted, shaking his head. "Oh, come on, Ethan. Wheat's just fancy grass. It'll grow back." Behind him, the rest of the HOA crew cackled like he'd just dropped the punchline of the year. My fingers twitched, itching to grab something, anything, to make them see the wreckage they'd caused. "You're trespassing," I growled, my voice low and sharp. "Get off my land." "Now," Melissa gasped theatrically, pressing a hand to her chest as if I'd wounded her delicate sensibilities. "Trespassing? Oh, honey, you don't get how things work around here." She gestured to the other riders, her smugness dialed up to 11. "This land falls under HOA jurisdiction. We've approved it as a recreational zone." I stared at her, stunned silent for a good 3 seconds before barking out a bitter laugh. "Are you insane? This isn't HOA property. It's my private farm." She rolled her eyes. "Potato, potato. HOA rules still apply. Per our latest community newsletter, this field's an outdoor activity area now." My eye twitched. "A community newsletter doesn't rewrite property laws, Melissa." She tilted her head, clearly reveling in the moment. "Well, that's up for debate." My pulse hammered in my ears, my breaths coming in short, angry bursts. It wasn't just her outrageous claims. It was the unshakable confidence in her tone, like she genuinely thought she could bend reality to her will. Meanwhile, the ATVs kept tearing through my field, another roar of engines, another plume of dirt and stalks flying. My patience snapped like dry kindling. Without a word, I whipped out my phone and started recording. "What are you doing?" Melissa asked, eyes narrowing. I didn't look up as I dialed, calling the cops. The laughter that erupted was loud and mocking. Tom wiped a fake tear from his eye. "Oh, that's hilarious. Go ahead, call them. See how that pans out." I ignored him, jaw tight, pressing the phone to my ear. "Yes, officer, I need help now. Multiple trespassers on my property, destroying my crops." Melissa snorted, but I caught a flicker of doubt in her voice. "Oh, come on, Ethan, you're really wasting police time over this?" I turned to her, phone still up. You seem real cocky for someone about to catch a trespassing charge. Her smirk wavered. A voice crackled through the line. We're sending officers now. Stay put. I hung up, pocketing my phone, and fixed my glare on Melissa and her HOA circus. The silence stretched, thick and tense. She broke first, swinging her leg over her ATV and squaring her shoulders. Fine, we'll leave. Tom's face twisted in disbelief. What? Melissa, I said we're leaving, she barked, shooting him a look that could have curdled milk. I'm not dealing with some trigger-happy cop who doesn't get community rights. Tom muttered under his breath, but fired up his engine. The rest of the crew followed, their enthusiasm noticeably dimmed. One by one, they peeled out, tearing through what remained of my field as a final middle finger before disappearing down the road. I exhaled slowly, trying to calm my racing heart. My field was trashed, my crops, my sweat, trampled and shredded by careless tires. My fists tightened as I surveyed the ruin. Then, faintly, sirens pierced the air. I turned toward the road as the first patrol car rolled up, lights flashing. A slow, grim smile spread across my face. This wasn't over, not even close. The patrol car eased to a stop, red and blue lights glinting off the dirt. I stood there, arms crossed, still seething over what I'd just witnessed, my wheat field, months of toil, reduced to a churned-up mess of tire tracks and broken stalks. That Melissa and her HOA goons had done it with such glee made it sting worse. The driver's door opened, and out stepped Officer Carter, a burly guy whose weary look said he'd handled one too many of this town's petty feuds. His partner, a younger cop named Lopez, climbed out after him, letting out a low whistle as he took in the carnage. Looks like a damn battlefield, Lopez muttered, nudging a snapped stalk with his boot. I nodded, jaw locked. That's about right. Carter adjusted his belt and turned to me. All right, Ethan, tell me what went down. I took a steadying breath and laid it out. Everything from the ATVs storming my land to me dialing the police. I didn't skip a detail. Melissa's smirk, Tom's snide remarks, the whole smug performance. The officers listened, their faces darkening with every word. When I finished, Carter sighed, rubbing his face. So they claimed this was HOA sanctioned? I nodded. Melissa said she had paperwork proving my land's under their control. Lopez snorted. That's not how property law works. Exactly, I said, teeth gritted. She acted like she could claim my farm with a newsletter. Carter glanced back at his cruiser. All right, let's hear her side. He grabbed his radio. Dispatch, send a unit to Melissa Grayson's place. Possible trespassing and property damage. The radio buzzed back confirmation. Lopez nodded toward the road, where ATV tracks led straight to the neighborhood. Got any cameras out here? That was my one stroke of luck. I pulled out my phone, opening the feed. Put them up after the HOA's last stunt. Caught it all. Lopez leaned in as I played the footage. ATVs tearing up my field, Melissa's smug face clear as day while she spun donuts, Tom and the crew cheering like it was a tailgate party. Then the kicker, Melissa declaring the HOA had approved it. Carter whistled. That's solid evidence. Enough for charges? I asked, eyes narrowing. He traded a look with Lopez and nodded. Oh yeah. Another car's rumble cut through the moment. A second cruiser pulled up, and out stepped Officer Brooks, a no-nonsense woman who didn't suffer fools, especially entitled HOA types. She strode over, all business. Where's Melissa? Carter jerked a thumb toward the neighborhood. Her place, probably. Want to go talk to her? Brooks nodded sharply. Damn right. She turned to me. Ethan, you pressing charges? No hesitation. Yes. She gave a curt nod and headed back to her car, peeling off toward Melissa's with purpose. Carter and Lopez stuck around, snapping photos of the damage before clapping my shoulder. We'll keep you posted, Carter said. Hang tight for now. I watched them drive off, leaving me alone in my wrecked field. Rage still simmered, but knowing Melissa wouldn't wiggle out of this cooled it some. Less than an hour later, my phone buzzed. Carter texting, Melissa's detained for questioning. Tried fake HOA docs as a defense. Didn't fly. I laughed, shaking my head. That woman's nerve, thinking she could bulldoze property law with some half-baked printout, was unreal. Sunset was creeping in when another text hit, this time from my neighbor, Riley. Dude, Melissa just got hauled out by cops. HOA's freaking out. I grinned, imagining the meltdown. Next morning, I hit town for supplies, stopping at the diner for coffee. The place hummed with gossip, my name popping up in hushed tones. Heard about Ethan's farm? Melissa thought she could take it over. She's finally getting hers. I smirked, grabbing my cup, but the high didn't last. Outside, Tom leaned against my truck, arms crossed, face sour. Think this is funny? He snarled. I sipped my coffee, unfazed. Yeah, I do. He stepped closer, trying to loom over me. Tough to pull off in loafers and a polo. You screwed up big, Ethan. I raised an eyebrow. Oh, how's that? He leaned in. You think Melissa's the only one with pull here? We'll make your life hell. I laughed. You already tried, Tom. Look where it landed you. His face flushed red, but before he could spit more, a siren chirped nearby. A patrol car cruised through the lot, and Tom backed off, muttering as he stormed away. I finished my coffee with a sigh. This wasn't done yet. Next morning, coffee in hand, I stepped onto my porch, staring at my battered field. The sight still twisted my gut, but it wasn't just that. It was the nagging sense Melissa's crew wasn't finished. Tom's parking lot threat lingered like a bad smell. My phone buzzed. Carter again. Melissa's hit with fines, trespassing, property damage, fraud attempt. She's pissed. I chuckled. Pissed didn't cover it. She was probably apoplectic. Then a sharp hiss cut through the quiet. I froze, stomach sinking. That wasn't normal. Setting my mug down, I rounded the house and saw it. My irrigation pipe slashed, water gushing out in wild sprays, soaking dirt and plants. My fists clenched as I crouched, tracing the clean cuts. This wasn't wear and tear. Someone had a blade and a grudge. I knew who. Melissa might be under watch, but Tom? He'd been livid yesterday, desperate enough for something this dumb. I dialed Carter. They sabotaged my irrigation. He sighed, exasperated. Proof. Cameras, I said, already heading to the barn where I kept the security setup. I'll check the feed. Send it over, he said. If it's them, they just dug a deeper hole. I hung up and pulled up the footage, fast-forwarding through the night. At 2:43 a.m., there they were, two figures in dark clothes creeping onto my land, heading for the pipes. I slowed it down, and a grim smile crept up. Tom and another HOA crony, Nate. No masks, no stealth, just Tom slashing away with a knife while Nate played lookout, twitching like a kid past curfew. I clipped it and sent it to Carter. Minutes later, he called. We're coming. By sunrise, Carter and Brooks rolled up, her face a mask of irritation. They don't quit, do they? She said. Nope, I muttered. Carter nodded toward my field. We're hitting Tom's place. Wanna come? I paused, then nodded. Yeah. 15 minutes later, we pulled into Tom's driveway. Pristine lawn, flashy SUVs, an HOA flag snapping in the breeze like he ruled a tiny empire. Carter and Brooks knocked. Tom answered, annoyance shifting to panic when he saw me. Morning, Tom, Carter said coolly. Let's talk. Tom forced a laugh, stepping onto the porch. Sure, what's up? Brooks crossed her arms. Care to explain why you and Nate were on Ethan's land last night, cutting up his irrigation? Tom paled, eyes darting. That's absurd. I was here all night. Brooks tapped her phone and held it up. The video played, Tom's smug face slashing pipes in grainy glory. His mouth flapped uselessly, face reddening. Okay, look, it was a prank. We didn't break anything big. Brooks raised an eyebrow. You sliced irrigation lines. He laughed nervously. It's fixable. We didn't burn his house down. Carter shook his head. That's not how it works, Tom. You're facing trespassing, vandalism, property damage charges. Tom's bravado collapsed, shoulders slumping. Come on, man, there's gotta be a way. There is, Carter cut in. You're coming with us. Tom cursed as they cuffed him. Nate appeared in the doorway, ashen, hands out for cuffs without a fight. I watched them get loaded up, the weight of it settling in. The HOA was done. 2 days later, Melissa was ousted as HOA president. Tom and Nate pleaded guilty, shelling out fines that probably hurt more than jail time. The HOA got a new board, sane leadership for once. With the settlement cash, I fixed my field, upgraded my irrigation, and added a little touch. A scarecrow smack in the middle of my wheat, its chest stitched with one word in bold letters, Melissa. First time she drove by and saw it, she nearly crashed from sheer fury. I just smiled, tipping my hat as she sped off. It was a damn good day.